And I am going to be completely honest with you, I was not at all expecting an acceptance offer from Imperial because I thought I really screwed up on the technical part. I thought, yeah, I'm not getting in. Hi, my name is Jessica, and as the title suggests, I had an interview at Imperial about 2 months ago in December. So I applied to Imperial early November, and then I received an email from them. They invited me for an interview in December. The reason why I'm making this video is because when I received that email on that fateful day, I was just like a nervous wreck. I went into panic mode, and I went to Quora, I went to YouTube, I just scoured the internet for any information I could get on the interview in Imperial. So I wanted to help someone who is maybe in the same position that I was, because trust me, I know how nerve-wracking it is. So I applied for biomedical engineering, and the interview for biomedical engineering encompassed an individual one-to-one interview. That typical question and answer type of session. Right, that. And then we also had this group activity or group task that we had to do with other applicants. And then there was also, before all of that, there was also this informal talk session with the current biomedical engineering students at Imperial. So those were the three main parts of the interview. So on the day of the interview, basically, you just go into this meeting and you'll be there with the other interviewees. There were about 30 to 40 other applicants for my case. And when you go in, they'll just welcome you, they'll invite you. They will actually introduce you to the major that you're applying to very briefly, and then will walk you through how the interview is going to go. And then we go right away into the three parts of the interview which I mentioned earlier. The applicants are actually, or rather the interviewees are separated into three groups. My group, we had the informal talk with the students first, and so we just basically, there were 3 or 4 students there, and the interviewees, we were allowed to ask them questions about anything really, and it was a very, as the name suggests, it was a very informal and a casual talk. So I think this was a really good opportunity to ask them about what the university is like and whether we would be a good fit for the university, and some applicants also asked for interview tips. I think this was actually a really nice thing to include in the interview process, because it helped me calm my nerves a lot. Because it was just like a comfortable conversation before all of the tested and the judged parts of the interview. So yeah, it was a really nice inclusion, in my opinion. Going straight into the next part of the interview, I had it was the one-to-one individual interview with an academic from Imperial. So my interviewer was a teaching fellow at Imperial. When you go into the meeting, it's just you and the interviewer. And the interviewer actually, it doesn't feel intimidating at all. It was really, the interviewer made me feel really comfortable, as if it was just like, a normal conversation. So that was a really nice thing about the interview. I really liked that. And so he just right away started asking me the questions. The first question that he asked me was why I wanted to study at Imperial and why I wanted to study biomedical engineering. So generic expected questions. I actually had an answer prepared for that. So that it started off well, and I would recommend you to think about why you want to study the major that you're applying for before the interview. And then after that, he asked me a load of questions about the field of biomedical engineering. So some of the questions included how I think the field will progress in the future. What else was there? He asked me about what specific parts of biomedical engineering I wanted to go into and I wanted to study. And then he also asked me where I imagined myself in 10 years. And that's another generic question. I forgot to mention just one thing. The interviewer also asked me things that were mentioned in my personal statement, and also things that were in the reference letter which I applied with. So make sure to just go over your personal statement before the interview so that you remember what it's about and it doesn't seem like you faked any of it. So in my opinion, I think this part of the interview went really well for me because I really researched a lot about my field, and that really prepared me to answer the questions that the interviewer had for me. So yeah, I think I did well on that. After that came the difficult part, where he asked me technical questions. So I was asked a question on physics. I actually was stumped when I was given the question. I did not know how to answer it at all. Personally for me, it was really difficult. But I just started talking about just any thoughts that came into my head. I just said whatever, even if they were completely wrong or they just didn't make sense. I just said whatever, and then their interviewer was actually guiding me throughout the question. So I think what they want to know from this part of the interview is they want to see the way that you think. They want to see your thinking process and your logic. That's why you have to think out loud. Don't just think inside your head, but say out loud, verbalize whatever you're thinking. Even if you don't know how to answer it, just try to communicate and try to talk about how you would approach this problem or question. Yeah, just don't panic if you have no idea how to answer it. Try to ask the interviewer any questions. If you need help, he or she or they will definitely help you throughout the whole problem or question. And so yeah, I was guided throughout the whole thing, and eventually I got to the end of it, and I actually only had received one question because we were running out of time. So I felt like I didn't know how to feel at the time because I felt like I did really well in the first part, and then on the second part I felt like I screwed up. So I really didn't know how to feel. But anyways, I just forgot about that, left that behind, and moved on to the next part. So we had the group task / activity. We were put into teams of 4. Right, so I was there with 3 other applicants, and we were given 3 problems / quizzes, so one by one. So one problem, and for each of them, we were basically just given time to read the problem itself and then discuss it with the group, and then 5 minutes to just present our conclusions. So these questions aren't questions that we're expected to know how to answer, but I think they just wanted to see how we worked in a team and also just our logic. So the tips I would have for this part are just to try to speak up and try to take initiative, even if other people are dominating the discussion. Try try to voice your own thoughts, because really speaking up will definitely give you a lot of points and will make the what is it called, the person who's judging you look favorably upon you. I found this part of the interview really fun because it wasn't just a individual thing. We were able to work with other applicants, and so that was really nice. So lastly, they just invited us all back into a meeting where they just congratulated us, and then we all just left. So overall, I actually found it really enjoyable. It was really comfortable. They made us feel really comfortable, and there was just no pressure at all. I just found it really fun, the whole thing. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give to someone preparing for an interview at Imperial is just not to panic and just to stay calm. Because honestly, panicking is not going to help you in any way. And also, you have no reason to panic if you prepared well. Whether it be on the day of the interview or before the interview, just don't panic, just stay calm. And that will help you think, that will help you have a clear mind. Even when you find yourself in a tight spot, just try to collect yourself and just think, and I'm pretty sure some ideas will start emerging in your head. And I actually haven't talked about my feelings before the interview. Right, so when I received that email offering me a place for an interview, I was actually petrified. I was really scared because, I mean, an interview at Imperial isn't a small thing. And I was just so intimidated by the idea of an interview. And at that, an interview at Imperial. So I had never done anything like this before. Like, an official interview for, a place at a university. So I was really anxious, and I was actually seriously considering just not attending the interview because I was that afraid of it. Yeah, I was just thinking about just ignoring that email and pretending it never existed and just living it in peace. Because, I mean, actually at that time I just finished my semester exams and I just wanted to rest. I just finished my exams, which I worked tirelessly for, and then I received an email for an interview at Imperial. Like, you could imagine how I felt at the time. I didn't feel great. I felt horrible because, I just wanted to rest. And then now I had to prepare painstakingly for this big interview. So, I think you can empathize with how I was feeling at the time. But at the end, I just thought to myself, and I just said, you know what? It doesn't matter whether I pass or whether I fail. It's totally fine if I flop the interview. I'm just going to do it for the experience. And I don't regret thinking that way. I don't regret actually just taking the chance because it was a really good experience and I found it really fun. And I got accepted eventually, so. Also, thinking about the interview, just thinking about doing it for the experience and not focusing too much on whether I would do well or whether I would fail the interview, it helped me adopt a more comfortable stance and feeling towards the interview, and just helped me to stay calm and not panic. So that was really helpful. I received the email 1 week before the interview day, so I spent that whole week preparing for the interview. I researched a lot. I researched about biomedical engineering, and then, as I said, I looked for tips on the internet, and then I also studied physics and maths for the technical part of the interview. And I am going to be completely honest with you, I was not at all accepting. I was not at all expecting a an acceptance offer from Imperial, because after that whole interview ended, I thought I really screwed up on the technical part. And so I thought, yeah, I'm not getting in. But 2 months later, I received an email and I opened UCAS and I received a conditional offer. So just go for it, even if you're scared, even if you feel like you won't be able to do it, because you never know. It's totally fine to fail too, because I mean, you're getting a good experience out of it, and it's also a really rare opportunity, so just take it and don't let fear blind you from missing out on a really good opportunity, because fear really does have the ability to take a lot away from you, so don't let that happen to you. I almost let that happen to me, but I didn't let it get the best of me. Right, so that's all I have for this video. Good luck to anyone who is or who will be taking an interview at Imperial. Best of luck to you, and trust in yourself. Trust in yourself. You can do it. So, bye.